Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of T-Dog-RC. This is episode 3 of the Tony Nijhuis 25-inch EDF Balsa Gnat build. If this is the first time you've found my channel and you're into fixed wing and Balsa and building things and all that sort of stuff, then you want to hit that subscribe button. And also, if you get to the end of the video and you enjoy it, then please give me a thumbs up. That really helps me out. And also, if you click the bell icon, then you'll get notified when the next episode of this comes out. And today's episode is all about this, which is we are starting to build the fuselage of the Gnat. So this is the bit where, in my opinion, it gets good, because as much as I like the wings, and obviously without wings plane wouldn't fly, but it's always the fuselage that's the kind of the fun bit, I guess, because that's where all the controls go and that's when it really starts to take shape. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. Alright then guys, so fuselage, which really is the main event. It's the exciting bit. This is where it's all going to really come together. So just been sort of having a look at the plan, and I've got this top view here of the fuselage, which is obviously going to be very useful, and then there's a side view down here, which you can't quite see on the camera. And then I've just been having a look at the notes, so I think I'm going to sort of get it down to tonight anyway. By the way, I'm going to try and make this a little bit shorter than the wing episode, because that went on a little bit, so certainly going to be doing this in a couple of videos anyway, because there's a fair bit to do on the fuselage. But what we need to do is we need to get the sides cut out of the wood, and then we need to get so fuselage sides 5 and all formers from 6 through to 14, and then on the elevator on former 7 we've got to cut some notches, which I don't think you can quite see there. You might be able to. There's a couple of little notches we've got to just sort of file in there for the snakes to run through, ready for when we fit those. So we're going to get fuselage side laid out, then we've got to put some Balsa triangle, so it says top edge triangle, add strips of 12.9mm triangle along the top and bottom edge of the fuselage as shown on the plan. So we're going to do that today. It's saying basically you're going to have to cut some slots in the triangle, I guess, to make it sort of bend a little bit around the curved edge of the fuselage. That's all fine. And then it says now fit former 6, 7, 8 to one side of the fuselage, and then you'll note that former 7, which is this little one, is slotted into former 6 to create the fan mounting former. So I need to sort of get my head around that. I'm not quite sure what it means by slotted into 6 just yet, but I'm sure it will become clear once we start doing it. And then it says form 7 should only be tack glued into 6. They're saying to use sort of hot glue for that, to give easy access should the fan ever need replacing. So I guess the idea is that you literally sort of break the glue off to get former 7 out, which would then allow you to take the fan out. Before we glue 6 and 7 into position, it says check that the fan fits correctly through the hole. If you're using the 50mm power fun EDF, which I am, then the opening in the form will have to be opened up very slightly. So that's where I'm going to get to tonight, hopefully. Or sorry, not necessarily tonight, but certainly in this episode. And then the next section after that is making up the thrust tube and all that sort of stuff. So we'll probably cover that off in the next video. So first job is to get all the bits out that I need. So I need the 2 fuselage sides and the triangle and the formers. So let's get this plan out of the way a minute. So let's get the wood pack out, see what we need. So there's the triangle. In fact, we've got loads of triangle. I guess we don't need all of that. these, that looks like former 6 and 7, which hold the fan in. That's pretty thick ply actually, that is. So they're going to be pretty strong then. We've got those, and then we've got all the other formers on here. It doesn't actually tell you on here what the formers are, but on the plan it does give me, see if I can get that. Yeah, so you can see there on the plan it tells you what the sheets are. So there's 6 and 7, and then that's formers 8, 9, 10, etc. So where is... Am I being stupid? Like, where's former 1 and 2 and 3 and 4? Maybe there isn't. 11, 9, 8, 13, 6 and 7. No, there isn't. Okay, fair enough. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to refer to this and just pencil on these numbers so I know what's what. So we'll get that done first. And then in terms of sides, that's just some sheet there. Wing bits. So there's one of the fuselage sides. So that's going to come out quite easy because that's pretty thin. I think that's about an 8 sheet. It's also got the tail on there, as you can see. Just check that you can see this okay. It's a bit tricky trying to get the angle right for this. So we've got one side there. What are those bits? And then we've got the other side here. So there's the two sides. Just check the plan to see what these bits are. I imagine these are going to be the side pods. These things, the intakes, I would guess. Yeah, these two here. So that one and that one are the sort of side pods that are going to stick out the side of the fuselage with the intake, so we don't need those just yet. So we need these two bits, which are the fuselage sides. These bits obviously here are for the tail, so we don't need those right now. So I'll get these cut out, and then I'll get the formers labelled up. So I'll just stop the camera for now while I do that, and then I'll be right back. So what I've done is I've got the fuselage sides cut out. That's the front and that's the back. So with this sort of, don't know, dog bone type thing is at the back. I only need one side for now. Then I've got the triangle to line across the top and bottom of the fuselage. This is 12.5mm triangle, and I've cut slots in the back using my razor saw. So to make it bend, because it's got to sort of bend around the curvature of this fuselage. So that's the first job to do, is to get this triangle fastened onto the fuselage. So I'm going to pin it in place, I think, with some of these T-pins, and then just run some thin sino in just to lock it into place, and pull the pins out once that's done. And then in terms of formers, I only need these 3 formers, or sort of 2, because 6 and 7 make 1. And on the instructions where it says it slots into 7 slots into 6, it just means like that basically. And obviously you can adjust that depending on the size of your fan. So I do need to just get the fan out and just check that to see how far down 7 needs to go into 6. And then once I've done that, I can tack glue that into place, it says, because at some point you may need to break this if the fan ever breaks. And then I can glue 6 and 7 go here. So I've marked that. I've put these fuselage sides up to the plan and marked the points on there. So that's going to go on there like that. Oop. So that's going to go something like that. And then number 8 we're going to fit as well, which is going to go here. So that's just going to go on there like that. And I'll use my metal blocks So I use these things so I know I get this dead square, get it lined up, and then glue it into place with a bit of thin CA. So first job anyway is to get this triangle glued onto the top and bottom of these fuselage sides. I'm only going to glue it on this side for now. So that is my next job. So here we go. So going to line this end up here, get a pin put in like that, and then check that that's lined up there, and then get another pin in there. And then it's just a case of making sure this is lined up, but it's also on the edge, the top edge of the fuselage, which is why really we need the pins. So another one in there. And then this section's fairly straight, so there's no cuts in this bit, so we can just put one in there. That back one's come out a bit, but I'll sort that out in a minute. Another one in there. Right, it's a bit tricky because maybe my pins aren't very good, I don't know, but it keeps popping out. So what I'm going to do is, these are all okay here. I have put them down into the plasterboard as well, but so I am just going to tack this end piece in with a bit of thin CA. Get that one on so it's not going to move anywhere, and then just work along it like that. Okay, so I've got the triangle on now, and I've pinned the fuselage side down to the board. So what I'm doing now is I've cut a notch there for former 8, so I'm just doing the same here for 6 and 7. So I've already marked on the fuselage side where they are. So I'm just lining my ruler up to those marks, and then using my razor saw just to cut down there to the fuselage side. Let's do the same for that one. I'm probably going to do these slots slightly bigger because I want to square the formers up using my metal blocks. And obviously if these are a really tight fit, it might not be able to do that. So let's get the rest out with a knife. So for former 8, we can pretty much just get this in now and get this squared up. The only thing I've got to be aware of is there's a little notch there, so I just need to check. It's little things like this, I mean that might not actually mean anything, but always check with the plan, because you know it might be easy to get that upside down. And sure enough, This notch is for to help you get the battery in 2200 3S, and it wants to go at the top, and this is the top here. So that is going to go in there like that. So let's just get this squared up here so we know what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my permagrit because this is really square there. Just put that against there just so I know I've got the former flush with the top and bottom of the fuselage sides, and then use these nice heavy blocks. So one here and one here. Push those up. And then in theory we should be nice and square there. So just keep double checking. Looks pretty good to me. So we'll get this glued in place. Give that a second for the CA to go off, then I'll get rid of the blocks and just run some more CA into it. Right, so that's got that former 8 glued in place, that's good. Just tidy these bits up. So next thing I need to do is get my fan, which is one of the powerful ones, and just see how this former fits in. So it does say that it might need a little bit taking off it. Yeah, so what say is this is just a little bit too tight, I think. It's just around here. So I'm just going to try and take a little bit of that off. It's going to be a bit tricky actually, but we'll see what we can do. And then I just need to mark this. I don't want it to be super tight, so I've got to slot this in. There we go. Let's mark that there and there. And then we've got to glue this together. So we've got to slide that in to the mark, put 2 marks basically, and then glue that into place. And I think this is where it says you've got to sort of tack glue it, so I just need to double check on the plan. Yeah, you see that's going to be too... It's a bit of a pain, because the problem is as well, it has got a lip. It's got a lip as well on the back. So if you actually make it flush with the shroud there, that's much narrower than the lip at the back, and obviously you can't push it in from the front because you've got the shroud, the lip on the shroud at the front as well, so that's a bit tricky, that is. Right guys, the way I'm going to tackle this, it's always good to sort of sit and have a think about these things before you actually just dive in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get former 6 glued in place now and get that squared up using my trusty blocks. Then I'm going to get the fan unit. You can't really see that, can you, because my hand's in the way, sorry about that. Just move the camera a little bit. So then I'm going to get the fan unit once 7's in place, and then slot the fan in, which should be doable. Could be a little bit tricky, but I think I will be able to get the fan in. It's just difficult to do it whilst it's sort of moving around. So that's going to go something like that. And then once I've got the fan in place, then I'm going to fasten former 6 into place. So that should hold the fan nice and tight like that. And then what I can do is just put a little bit of hot glue around here once I'm ready, just to actually secure the fan in position. So that's the way I think I'm going to do it. Okay guys, so we've got the 6 and 7 in position with the fan. I think that was the easiest way to do it, to be honest. It's not quite what the instruction says, but that's fine. I think the only problem I'm going to have is if this fan ever does decide to pack up, it's going to be tricky to get it out. But to be honest, I think that'd be the case anyway, however way you did it. It's always going to be a bit tricky to get it out, just because of the way these things fit. That's quite a nice tight fit now, so then I'll just put some hot glue around there just to actually secure the fan in place. So I'll do that later. So let's just have a look what we've got to do next. Okay, so next job, which I won't be doing today myself, but it will be on this video. So now that's in place, and the good news is I've just double checked the instructions, and it does say to install the fan first prior to enclosing everything, so I have done it in the right order, which is good. So next job is to then make this shroud up out of acetate, which I'll get done in the next clip, and obviously just cut that off to the required size. But you don't actually, it says on the instructions that slides in afterwards, because I think you have to get the formers in place first, obviously, before you fasten the shroud in. Otherwise, if you'd got the fan shroud there, you wouldn't be able to get the formers in, if that makes sense. So that's going to be a job for the next clip, and then once I've done that, we can then put the rest of the formers in place, and then we can get the triangular section put on the other side, and then mark out the notches in it for the formers, which will be on this side, and then we can join the two sides together. And then obviously it should really start to take shape then. So yeah, that's me done just for now, but I'll be back soon to do the acetate, so sit tight. Okay guys, welcome back to the next part of this, and boy have I had some fun since the last clip. So that was on a Thursday evening. It's now Sunday morning, basically. Got myself a coffee. Yeah, so I said in part one that it's been about 20 years since I did any Balsa building, so this is really a bit of a learning curve again, getting back into it, and I made a big mistake. I don't mind admitting that. That's what this channel's all about, really. I don't know if anyone noticed it actually in the last clip, but what I did was, the top section of triangle was fine, but then the bottom section I actually glued on the wrong way around, so it was kind of at the wrong angle. So I think I glued it on so it was like that, against the wood, which is actually, when you look on the plan, it won't work like that, because when you come to shape the fuselage, you have to trim loads of this back with the razor plane, and you need the triangle to be in a certain position, so it's not just there to add strength, it is there to help you shape. So I sort of stared at it for a while and thought, yep, I've definitely done this wrong, there's no way around it. Maybe I can remove the triangle with get my big sort of knife like this, get the blade right out like that, and try and, you know, slice, but it was just turning into an absolute mess, and then ended up like snapping the fuselage because it's only pretty thin soft Balsa. So that was a complete nightmare. So that went in the bin, basically, all that stuff that you just saw on the previous episode, on the previous clip. So what I ended up doing is using the other side from the kit, or from the wood pack, should I say, because it's not exactly a kit. So use the other side to get back to where you left it in the last clip. Then the new side, I fortunately had a couple of spare sheets of 6.5mm Balsa from another wood pack that I've got. So I took those sheets out of there and I made a new fuselage side, stuck all the triangle stuff to that. I had some spare triangle as well. Went to put it up on the fuselage and realised I'd done an even bigger stupid mistake, and that is I put the triangle on the same side as this side of the fuselage. So effectively I'd got it mixed up, back to front kind of thing. So of course that meant then I had to throw that in the bin as well and start again. So, it is good fun apparently, but that was pretty stressful. Well, not stressful, but just really annoying. But anyway, we're back to where, probably pretty much where you left the last clip, obviously, apart from having this fuselage side all sorted now. So this one I've made myself by tracing around this one and cutting the parts out. That's the only thing, it's not perfectly laser cut like this one is, so there's a little bit of discrepancy. But anyway, it's not like a super precise, super scale model that's going into a competition or anything like that. You know, it's just like a fun fly model, sports model. But actually, I think certainly you'll see there that it's pretty damn close. Lines up quite nicely. So what I've got to do now, before I glue this half on, is I've got to make this little acetate tube, thrust tube, to go on the back of the motor. Let me turn that around so you can see it a bit better. So that's going to go on here. I also just need to secure this in place with some hot glue, so I'll do that as well actually in a second. So then the little thrust tube made out of this stuff, which is just some printable acetate in A4. So I'm just going to get a sheet of that out, and then on the plan, there is here, this here is the shape that the acetate needs to be. So I'll just put a sheet of acetate over that and obviously just trace around that with a Sharpie and then just cut it out with some scissors. And then we can get that fastened on. You fasten it onto here, tape it up, make sure it's a nice tight fit, cut a slot out for the motor cables, and then once I'm happy with it and it's secured in place with tape, etc., sort of pull it off, put it to one side. Then what we've got to do is join the two halves together. There's a couple of formers to go in, one at the front, one at the back, and I think there's one here. There's one about there. Then there's one in the middle somewhere, I think. Oh, sorry, no, there's two at the front. So there's one about there and then one at the front. But once we've got the former in that sort of sits here, we've then got to feed the tube back in. This is with the fuselage side on, so it's a bit fiddly, and push it back over the fan shroud there. But because obviously we've already formed it like this, it should hopefully go in fairly easily. And also, I've been checking the instructions. I think the big lesson I've learned, by the way, from this little episode with the fuselage side is when it comes to stuff like bolts are building off plans and nothing's, you know, this is laser cut, but it's not all got tabs and interlocking pieces where you just stick it all together. And is the key to this is, you know, it's a bit like measure twice, cut once. You've got to read the instructions and look at the plan probably about 3 or 4 times. Stand and sort of have a think about what you're actually doing, and then commit with the CA, because it is very easy just to get something the wrong way round. It's just the way it is. Anyway, we carry on. So I'm just going to get this glued in with some hot glue, and then I will show you making the acetate sheet. And then, oh yeah, sorry, what I was saying, I've been reading the instructions again and again, and it does say, and it's quite clear, it says now fit the other fuselage side and the remaining formers, 9, 10 and 11. It doesn't say fit the formers, then the fuselage side. So I think the tricky bit with this, because it's a bit of a funny shape, it's almost like a banana shape, it's quite hard to sort of get it square on it. You know, I don't have a jig or anything like that. But these two formers are in this square section, so I think it's easier to get the other side joined to these two first, and then slot the other formers in. I've been sort of playing around with it, and I think that's going to be the best way to do it. And in order to, anyway, I'll show you that when I come to do that in a few minutes. So let's crack on with getting this fan secured in place with a bit of hot glue. Right then, that's got this little acetate sheet cut out. So I guess it kind of goes something along those lines, like that. And then that slot there is for these the power leads from the motor. So grab a slurp of this. Let's see what we've got. Might need to make that even maybe a bit bigger. I think this is going to be quite fiddly, but essentially that's going to go on there. I think this slot's going to have to be bigger for sure. Around there. I think what I'll do is I'll tape it into place here as a start, and then sort of shape it in there. And then we've got to just fasten it together here, so I can probably put some bits of tape on the inside there just to secure it in place. So I shall get that done and I'll be right back. Alright, so I got the thrust tube made up. I actually found it easier rather than trying to fit it around there. I guess that, you know, the size on the plan has got to be, this model is designed for these fans, so I sort of assumed that it can't be far off, so I ended up actually just taping it together and measuring that so it was about the same diameter as that, and as it happens that's worked out perfect. So that just slides on once you get the cables through. It does slide on because I've checked it. There we go. So that just slides on like that, and then obviously we'll secure that in place with some tape, but I've got to put the other former in place first, so that's going to be a bit tricky, I think, trying to get it in here once that former's in. But the instructions say you kind of fold it in on itself and then put it in, and of course it will just spring back. We'll figure it out anyway. We'll have a go. But yeah, that's quite nice. Might just have to just trim a bit because it does stick out a little bit on the back there, but I'll worry about that later, I think. That does give a nice diameter, so obviously this part is the size of the fan shroud, but then this is slightly smaller, which is what you want for an EDF, because you need that little bit of pressure. It helps the air move through the nozzle and accelerate it out the back. There is a formula, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but there is a way you can work out, there's a percentage that this has to be smaller than the intake side, so, and it is certainly a little bit smaller, so that should be good. So next big task I've got to do now then is got to join this side, so join these two together, which is quite looking forward to doing, because it's all a bit flimsy at the minute, but once we've got this side joined on and then the other formers in place, it will really start to get a bit more solid and actually look like a bit of a structure. So what I'm going to do, and again I've been sort of thinking about the best ways to do this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to, don't have a jig to put it on, and it's very tricky to try and, say if I got these blocks here and try and line it up like that, which is probably not too bad because that's nice and square like this, and then that's on a flat, these bits are on a flat surface. Can you see? Yeah, you can see the back there. That's pretty much spot on there at the back. If I just offer my this little set square up to that, so that's pretty square. And then same at the front. Obviously you can't see that, but it's just needs tweaking a little bit maybe, just to bring that in. But as I say, because I've hand cut the other fuselage side, it's probably not quite the same size as the one that was in the laser cut wood pack. But we're probably talking less than 1 millimetre. And at the front I can just sand that flat with my nice square block. So that's looking pretty good like that. That's pretty square. And of course the other thing got to get right is making sure, I'm kind of just going to have to eyeball this, get down and eyeball it, but it's making sure that this surface here is level, because what we don't want is like the top and bottom of the fuselage to be at an angle, and I have to say that that is a bit tricky. So I think that's how we're going to have to do it. So not particularly super precise and in a jig and all that business, but I think that's probably the best way to do it. So I'm going to get that lined up again and get the CA in, and then once I've done that we can start putting the formers in. So I'll get that glued up and then I'll come back. Right then, so I've got the two sides glued together. That's gone together pretty well, nice and solid now. So next job is to get these 3 formers in place. So we've got 9, 10 and 11. 10 goes at the back here, and there's a hole for that for the thrust tube to go through, which fits through there quite nicely. So as you can see there, like that. 11 goes at the front, and again these are shaped to fit with the triangle section. So going back to what I was saying before, if I had have just sort of left the triangle as it was and tried to make do, then the formers wouldn't fit properly, because these are the right angle for the triangle section. So that goes in the front there like that. And then 9, I've just marked it across here. So 9 just goes in there basically. And then we'll get those CA'd in place. So should be relatively straightforward. I'll start with 9, I think. I'll get that one in place first, and then probably do number 11 and then 10. And I'm going to use my nice square blocks again and just fit those inside here, just to get the formers nice and square like that. And then we'll CA those into position. So let's get stuck in. Okay, so that's got all the formers in place. A little bit fiddly job there, but the basic structure of the fuselage is there now, thankfully. It's been quite a marathon getting that sorted, but we got there in the end. So now I just need to get this acetate tube in now. So I think what it says in the instructions is to sort of, it says to fold it in, like fold it in on itself. So I think we can sort of squidge it into place That's not going to work. Let's try it from the top here. Nope. So, see what it actually says. Double check it again. Now slide the roll tube in from the rear of former 10. So it's saying, yeah, the rear of former 10 is that way, isn't it? Ah, so I guess what it's saying is you sort of fold it up, maybe. You will have to fold the tube on itself, but it slides through. It should pop round again. Gently ease it over the fan. So I think what it's kind of saying is almost do this, which kind of feels a bit horrible. But I'm guessing it's the only way to get it in and through here. Come on. And then this is the bit where it's meant to pop back out, but it doesn't look like it's going to do that very easily. Very fiddly. But we'll keep messing around and see where we get to. Right then, that's the basic fuselage box structure finished, and I'm glad that that section's over, because that was a bit of a test for me. That was lack of experience, etc. Shame I had to cut this side out myself, and I ruined the laser cut one, but there we are. That's just the way it goes. But I'm fairly happy with that. It's nice and straight and square, which is the most important thing, and it's nice and level along the top and the bottom, so hopefully when I come to put the sheeting on, you know, we won't need to fill too much. There are a few areas where I'll need to fill it. For example, when I cut this new fuselage side out, where the wing section is, it's really flimsy, and as I was cutting it, it was kind of pushing it. It cut a bit too much off basically with the knife, but I've levelled it up with the triangle, so I'll just have to fill it a little bit with a bit of model light filler. But that's fine, not too worried about that. Got the acetate in as well. That was a fiddle as well. I've secured it in place with some Blenderm tape, because it says to use 3M tape in the instructions, but I haven't got any of that in the workshop. But Blenderm tape should be just as good. It feels nice and solid. Had to trim the back just to get that flush at the back there. But as you can see, you can probably, yeah, you can just see the tube in there. Does the job. It's just ever so slightly creased on one side where it goes through that former at the back there, but this former here, but should be fine. So that will do it, I think, for this video. I hope you've enjoyed watching along. I've squared the front off there as well, so that's looking nice. A little bit of a gap there between that bit of triangle, but there's going to be a nose block that's going to go on there. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you're enjoying sort of watching along as I hack through this and get this build done. If you have enjoyed the video, then please hit the subscribe button. Also give me a thumbs up if you like it. That really helps me out. And if you press the bell icon, then you'll get notified whenever I bring the next part out to this little series I'm doing. And the next part, the main thing I'm going to be doing is got to put this sheet Balsa on the top and bottom. And normally when you, well, from what I remember anyway, when you sheet fuselages, you normally do it cross grain like this, because it gives you lots of extra strength. But I've checked the photographs in the build sort of photograph manual that you get. Doesn't really show you anything on the plan, but definitely in the photograph they've put the sheeting on this way like that. So they put it on lengthways, so that's what I'm going to do, because that's what they've done. So but that should go on. It's going to be like, going to have to flex it down a fair bit at the front and the back, but that should be fine. So yeah, we've got two pieces to go at. It's 5mm Balsa, so we've got to get those on the top and the bottom, and then what we've got to do is from some scrap Balsa, and it's the thick 6.5mm stuff. There's more in the box. This is just a little bit I've got to hand, but we've got from this thick 6.5mm, I've got to use that and laminate it together to then make the little nose block that goes on the front. And then once we've done that, then got to start shaping it with the razor plane, really going at it pretty strong with the razor plane, and it's got this like really sort of sleek rounded shape to it, and the nose goes to obviously a nice round point as well, so it kind of gives you that nice sort of long sleek fuselage. So I quite like doing all that sort of stuff. That should be a little less painful than doing this. But as I say, that'll be coming up in the next episode, so keep an eye out for that. And thanks again for watching. Thanks for everyone who has subscribed already. I really appreciate your support, and I'll see you soon for the next one.